The shuttle landed on the purple mountains of Varus Prime, just as the twin suns began to rise. Kira Santos pressed her face against the cold window and watched the Galactic Combat Academy come into view. The black towers rose from the rock like giant teeth, ancient and proud. They had stood there for 12,000 years, training warriors from hundreds of alien species. Kira was 24 years old. She had dark hair tied back in a tight braid and brown eyes that noticed everything. Back on Earth, she had spent 6 years learning to fight with swords. Not the fancy sword fighting from movies, but the real kind that soldiers used hundreds of years ago. She was good at it. Very good. But here, she was just another human. A member of a young species that the galaxy did not take seriously. The 12 human cadets walked off the shuttle together. They wore matching gray uniforms and carried small bags with their personal items. Around them, aliens of every shape and size moved through the landing area. Some had scales, some had fur. Some had so many eyes that Kira could not count them all. A tall reptilian creature was waiting for them at the entrance to the main building. He stood 7 feet tall and had dark red scales that looked like dried blood. 4 yellow eyes studied the humans as they approached. "I am Commander Zareth," he said. His voice was a hiss, but a small device on his collar translated it into English. "I am the Blade Instructor at this academy. You will learn to fight under my guidance, or you will fail and go home." He led them through long hallways made of black stone. Ancient weapons hung on the walls. Swords and axes and things that Kira did not recognize. Each one had a small sign explaining which species had made it and how many enemies it had killed. The training hall was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Kira had to tilt her head all the way back to see it. Hundreds of cadets were already there, standing in neat rows. They came from dozens of different worlds. Kira saw creatures with 4 arms, creatures with tails, creatures that seemed to be made of living crystal. Commander Zareth made the humans join the line. Then he walked slowly past each new cadet, studying them with his 4 eyes. He stopped in front of Kira. "You are small," he said, "even for a human. What weapon do you like to use?" "Swords, Commander," Kira answered. "What kind of swords?" "All kinds. But I like to use 2 at the same time." Several alien cadets made sounds that might have been laughter. Commander Zareth's neck frill, a flap of skin behind his head, spread out in surprise. "Dual-wielding," he said slowly. "I see that human movies have filled your head with silly ideas." "With respect, Commander, I have trained for many years. I have trained warriors for 200 years, Zareth interrupted. His voice was hard now. "I have studied how 347 species fight. And I will tell you what. I tell every young fool who thinks they're special. No species can fight well with 2 swords. It does not work. It is slow. It is weak. It is a fantasy for children." Kira kept her face calm and still. "Every species has tried," Zareth continued. He was speaking to all the cadets now, not just Kira. The Vorn have 4 arms. They thought they could do it. They were wrong. The Tazari have brains that can think about many things at once. They thought they could do it. They were wrong. My own people, the Keth, tried it for 3 generations. We stopped after 17 of our best fighters died. He leaned down close to Kira. His breath was warm and smelled like metal. "Whatever tricks you learned on your little planet, forget them. Here, you will learn to fight the right way. 1 weapon, full attention. Anything else will get you killed." "Yes, Commander," Kira said. But inside her head, she was already making plans. The first week was hard. The training started before sunrise and did not stop until long after dark. Kira and the other humans had to run, climb, and fight until their muscles screamed. Many of the alien cadets were stronger and faster. Some of them had natural weapons like claws or fangs. The humans had nothing but soft skin and stubborn hearts. Kira learned quickly. She paid attention to every lesson. She practiced the defensive moves that Zorath taught until she could do them in her sleep. She learned how the Keth liked to attack fast and hard at the start of a fight. She learned how the Vorn used their forearms to control space. She took notes on everything. The other human cadets struggled more. A young man named Danny Lopez, a friendly guy from Texas with an easy smile, had never held a sword before joining the program. He was learning everything from the beginning. "How are you so good at this?" he asked Kira one night after training. They were eating dinner in the large hall where all the cadets gathered. The food was strange but filling. "I started learning when I was 18, Kira said. Back home, there are groups that study how people really fought with swords hundreds of years ago. Not the fake stuff from movies. The real techniques that soldiers used in war." "And the two swords thing?" Kira smiled. "That too. There are old books from Italy and Spain that teach it. The masters who wrote them were not playing games. They were teaching people how to survive real fights." Danny looked around to make sure no one was listening. Zorath said it was impossible. Zorath said no species can do it effectively. But he learned that by watching aliens try to do it using alien techniques. Kira took a bite of her food. He has never seen a human do it the human way. What is the human way? Kira thought for a moment. We are not strong like the Keth. We are not fast like the Tessari. We do not have four arms like the Vorn. So we had to be clever. We had to find ways to win that did not need strength or speed. Dual wielding is not about being better than your enemy. It is about confusing them, making them watch two weapons instead of one, creating openings they do not expect. Danny shook his head. "I think you are going to get in trouble." "Probably," Kira agreed. "But I did not come all this way to pretend I am something I'm not." That night, while the others slept, Kira found an empty training room. She took out the two practice swords she had brought from Earth. They were simple blades, balanced for her hands. Worn from years of use, she began to move through her forms. Right hand high, left hand low. Step and turn. Both blades moving together like wings of a bird. In the quiet darkness, she practiced the art that Commander Zorath had called impossible. Somewhere in the building, she knew he was watching. The academy had cameras everywhere. Let him watch, she thought. Let him see what a human can do. She was not here to follow rules. She was here to break them. The weeks passed slowly on Varus Prime. Every day brought new pain and new lessons. Commander Zorath pushed the cadets hard, harder than many of them thought possible. Some gave up and went home. Others were sent away for failing too many tests. The group that had started with 200 cadets was now down to 150. Kira survived. More than survived. She was becoming one of the best fighters in her class. During the day, she did everything Zorath asked. She learned the Keth defensive forms, the way they used their scales to turn away weak strikes while saving their strength for big attacks. She studied the Vorn sweeping cuts, wide movements that used all four arms in a pattern that was almost like a dance. She practiced the Tessari footwork, quick steps that let a fighter move in any direction without losing balance. She was a perfect student. Zorath even praised her once, which was rare. He said her defensive technique was almost as good as a Keth warrior twice her age. But at night, she practiced her own way. The training room she used was in a far corner of the academy, away from the main buildings. It was small and old, with stone walls and a single light that buzzed and flickered. No one else used it because there were better rooms closer to the sleeping areas. That made it perfect for what Kira needed. Every night, she would slip out of her bed and walk through the dark hallways. She knew where the cameras were now, and she knew which paths the night guards took. She was not hiding exactly. She was just being careful. In the training room, she would draw her two swords and begin. The forms she practiced were different from anything taught at the academy. They came from old books written by Italian sword masters 500 years ago. Men with names like Marazzo and Mantellino had created these techniques for soldiers and duelists who needed every advantage they could get. The techniques were not pretty. They were designed to keep you alive. Right blade strikes while left blade guards. Left blade strikes while right blade guards. Never stop moving. Never give your enemy a moment to think. Create problems faster than they can solve them. One night, about a month into her training, Danny found her. He stood in the doorway of the training room, watching her move. His mouth was open in surprise. Kira finished her form before she turned to look at him. "You should be sleeping," she said. "So should you." Danny walked into the room and sat on a bench against the wall. "I woke up and saw your bed was empty. Thought maybe you were sick or something. I am fine." "I can see that." He watched her sheathe her swords. "You have been doing this every night?" "Almost every night. Sometimes I am too tired." Danny was quiet for a moment. "Why?" Zora said it does not work. "All the aliens say it does not work. Why do you keep trying?" Kira sat down next to him. She was breathing hard from the practice, and sweat dripped down her face. "Do you know what happened when humans first met aliens? 15 years ago?" "Sure. First contact. Everyone was excited. Then everyone was scared. Then things calmed down. Before things calmed down, there was a fight," Kira said. "A group of pirates attacked one of our colony ships. Human ship, human crew, human passengers. The Galactic police were too far away to help. Everyone thought those people were going to die. What happened? A single human warship showed up. The pirates had better weapons, better shields, faster engines. By every measure, they should have won easily." Kira smiled at the memory of the stories she had grown up hearing. The human captain won by doing things that were not supposed to work. He flew his ship through an asteroid field at full speed. He used the ship's engines as a weapon. He did a dozen things that galactic military experts said were impossible. And it worked. It worked because the pirates had never seen anything like it. They were trained to fight against enemies who followed the rules. They did not know what to do when someone broke all the rules at once. Danny nodded slowly. "So you think sword fighting is the same?" "I think everything is the same. Every species that comes to this academy is taught to abandon their own way of fighting. The Keth give up their ambush hunting. The Vorn stop using their forearms independently. Everyone learns the same techniques. Everyone becomes predictable. And humans have not been here long enough to become predictable." "Exactly." Kira stood up and drew her swords again. "I am not saying my way is better than Zorath's way. For most situations, it probably is not. But it is different. And sometimes, different is all you need." She began to move again, her blades cutting through the air. Danny watched her for a long time. He saw how her feet never stopped moving, how her eyes tracked invisible enemies, how each movement flowed into the next without pause. "Can you teach me?" he asked. Kira stopped. "You want to learn?" "I want to understand." "And maybe?" He shrugged. "Maybe being different is not such a bad thing." After that night, Danny joined her in the training room. He was not a natural fighter like Kira, but he worked hard. She taught him the basics of movement, how to keep his balance while stepping in any direction. She showed him how to hold his sword so that his arm would not get tired. She explained the ideas behind each technique, the logic that made it work. Other humans began to notice. One by one, they started showing up at the training room. Soon, Kira was teaching 6 of her fellow cadets, all of them practicing in secret while the rest of the academy slept. They knew they were taking a risk. If Zorath found out, he might send them all home. But there was something exciting about it too. They were not just learning to fight. They were keeping something alive. A human way of doing things that the galaxy had never seen. 2 weeks before the first big assessment, Zorath called Kira to his office. She walked through the door with her heart beating fast, but her face showed nothing. The room was bare except for weapons on the walls and a desk made of dark wood. Zorath sat behind the desk, his 4 eyes fixed on her. "Cadet Santos," he said, "I have been watching you." "Yes, Commander." "You have done well in your training. Your forms are clean. Your understanding is deep. By every measure, you are one of the best in your class." "Thank you, Commander." Zorath's neck frill twitched. "I also know about your night practices. The 2 swords. The secret lessons you give to other humans." Kira said nothing. There was nothing to say. "I want to know why," Zorath said. "You clearly understand how to fight properly. You have the skill to succeed. Why do you waste your time on techniques that do not work?" Kira took a breath. "Because I have used them in real fights, Commander. Not training. Real fights where people wanted to hurt me. And I am still alive. Against humans. Against anyone who faced me." Zorath studied her for a long moment. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, one after another. "The assessment is in 2 weeks, he finally said. "You may use any weapon combination from the approved list. 2 swords are on that list." He paused. "If you choose to use them, you will face our best fighters. They will not hold back. I understand. Do you? Because if you fail, you will prove that humans are exactly what the galaxy thinks we are. Children playing at war." Kira met his gaze. "Then I will not fail." Zorath's frill twitched again. Something in his eyes might have been respect. Or maybe it was just curiosity. "We will see," he said. Dismissed. The days after the assessment were strange ones for Kira. She had gone from being an unknown human cadet to being the most talked about person in the academy. Everywhere she walked, aliens stopped to stare. Some looked at her with new respect. Others looked at her with anger or confusion. A few looked at her like she was a puzzle they needed to solve. Torvik found her in the dining hall 3 days after their match. The big Keth warrior walked straight to her table, ignoring the stares from everyone around him. He was carrying a tray of food and a serious expression. "May I sit?" he asked. Kira gestured to the empty seat across from her. "Please." Torvik sat down heavily. Up close, she could see that his scales looked different than before. Less shiny. More natural. He had stopped polishing them. "I have been thinking about our fight," he said. "And? I have been fighting since I was 5 years old. I trained with the best teachers on my homeworld. I won every tournament, every competition, every challenge. When I came to this academy, I thought I would be the best here too." He paused. "I was wrong." Kira ate a bite of her food, waiting for him to continue. "You did not beat me because you were faster," Torvik said. "I am faster than you. You did not beat me because you were stronger. I am stronger than you. You beat me because I did not know what you were going to do. That is part of it. What is the other part?" Kira set down her food and looked at him directly. "You were trained to fight one way. The Keth way. It is a good way. It works against most enemies. But it is the only way you know." Torvik's frill twitched. "The Keth way has won wars for 10,000 years. Against enemies who fight like you expect them to fight. What happens when you meet someone who does not?" The big Keth was quiet for a long moment. "I lose," he finally admitted. "You lost 1 match. That does not make you a bad fighter. It means you have something new to learn." Kira smiled. "That is why you are here, is it not? To learn?" Torvik made a sound that might have been a laugh. "My father sent me here to bring honor to our family. He expected me to win every match and graduate at the top of my class. What do you expect? I expected the same thing. He looked at his hands, at the claws that could tear through metal. Now I am not sure what to expect. Kira pushed her tray aside and leaned forward. I will tell you what I expect. I expect you to come to my training room tonight. I expect you to bring your sword. And I expect you to learn something new. You would teach me? After I called your weapons toys? You were honest about what you thought. There is no shame in being wrong if you are willing to change. That night, Torvik came to the small training room where Kira practiced. He brought his war blade and an open mind. Kira taught him the basics of what she knew. Not how to use two swords, not yet, but how to think about fighting in a different way. She showed him how to watch both of an enemy's hands at the same time. She taught him how to create openings by attacking multiple lines at once. She explained the idea that fighting was not about being the strongest or fastest, but about solving problems faster than your enemy. Torvik was a quick learner. By the end of the first night, he was already moving differently, more carefully, more thoughtfully. Word spread through the academy. Torvik, the undefeated Keth champion, was learning from the human girl. Other cadets began to show up at the training room. First a few, then dozens. Keth and Vorn and Tazari, all wanting to see what Kira could teach them. Commander Zorth watched all of this happen. He received reports from the instructors who monitored the cadets. He reviewed footage from the cameras in the training rooms. He saw how Kira was changing the way the cadets thought about fighting. 1 month after the assessment, he called her to his office again. This time, the conversation was different. You have caused quite a disturbance, Zorth said. He was sitting behind his desk as before, but something in his posture was more relaxed. I apologize if I have broken any rules, Commander. You have not. Teaching other cadets is allowed. Using unconventional techniques is allowed. Beating my best student in front of the entire academy is... He paused, his frill twitching. Also allowed, although less common. I did not mean to embarrass anyone. You did not embarrass anyone. You surprised them. There is a difference. Zorth stood and walked to the window that looked out over the training grounds below. I have been teaching at this academy for 200 years. I have seen thousands of cadets come and go. Most of them learn what I teach and nothing more. They become competent fighters who follow the rules. Is that bad? It is safe. Safe fighters survive. They complete their missions. They go home to their families. He turned to look at her. But they do not change anything. They do not push the art forward. They do not make us better. Kira was not sure what to say to that. When I was young, Zorth continued, I tried to dual-wield. I thought I could make it work. I failed. My teachers failed. Everyone I knew who tried it failed. So I decided it was impossible and I stopped trying. It was not impossible. It was just hard. Yes, I see that now. Zorth walked back to his desk and picked up a small data tablet. I have been watching your training sessions. The things you teach are not magic. They are practical techniques that any species could learn if they were willing to think differently. That is what I have been trying to say, and I have been too stubborn to listen. He handed her the tablet. The Academy Council has approved a new program. An elective course in what they are calling Terran Adaptive Combat Techniques. They want you to teach it. Kira looked at the tablet in shock. Me? But I am just a cadet. You were a cadet. As of this morning, you have been given the rank of junior instructor. Zorth's frill twitched again in that expression she now recognized as amusement. It is unusual, but not without precedent. When a cadet proves they have something valuable to teach, we do not let rank get in the way. I do not know what to say. Say you will do it. Say you will teach our cadets to think the way humans think. Show them that there is more than one way to win a fight. Zorath sat back down. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Our enemies do not follow rules. The more ways our warriors know how to fight, the better chance they have of coming home alive. Kira looked at the tablet again. The words swam in front of her eyes. Junior Instructor Kira Santos. Terran Adaptive Combat Techniques. I will do it, she said. Good, Zorath nodded. Your first class starts next week. Try not to break too many traditions. Kira smiled. I cannot promise that, Commander. I know. That is why I chose you. She left his office with her head spinning. Just 2 months ago, she had been a nobody from Earth. Now she was going to teach aliens how to fight. The galaxy would never see it coming. The 2 weeks before the assessment passed faster than Kira expected. She trained every day until her arms ached and her legs burned. She practiced alone in her secret room at night. She taught her fellow humans everything she could. And through it all, she felt the weight of what was coming. The assessment was a tradition at the academy. Every new class of cadets would fight each other in one-on-one duels. The matches would decide their rankings for the rest of the year. High rankings meant better assignments, more respect, and greater chances for important missions after graduation. Low rankings meant the opposite. For Kira, it meant something more. It was her chance to prove that humans were not just children playing at war. It was her chance to show that there was more than one way to fight. The night before the assessment, she could not sleep. She lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling, running through techniques in her head. Every movement, every counter, every response to every possible attack. Danny found her in the common room an hour before sunrise. He was carrying 2 cups of something hot and bitter that passed for coffee on Varus Prime. Could not sleep either? He asked, handing her a cup. No. Kira wrapped her hands around the warm cup. I keep thinking about everything that could go wrong. What could go wrong? Everything. I could be too slow. I could make a mistake. I could freeze up at the wrong moment. She shook her head. The Keth have reflexes twice as fast as humans. Their scales can stop a weak blade. And Torvik, their best fighter, has never lost a match in his entire life. Danny sat down across from her. You think you will have to fight him? I know I will. The way the brackets work, we will face each other in the 3rd round if we both keep winning. And Torvik always wins. So do you. Kira smiled, but it was a tired smile. That is different. I have never fought someone like him. Not really. They sat in silence for a while. Outside the window, the twin suns of Varus Prime were starting to rise, painting the purple mountains in shades of gold and red. I have a question, Danny said. What happens if Zorath is right? What if dual-wielding really does not work against someone like Torvik? Kira thought about it. Then I will lose. And I will learn why I lost. And I will figure out how to do better next time. That simple? That simple. The only real failure is giving up. Everything else is just learning. The assessment arena was the largest building in the academy. It was built like an ancient coliseum, with rows of stone seats rising up around a central fighting area. Thousands of spectators could watch the matches, and today, it seemed like all of them had come. Word had spread about the human who planned to use 2 swords. Aliens from every corner of the academy had shown up to see what would happen. Most of them expected to watch a quick defeat. Humans were new to the galaxy. They did not know their place yet. This would be a good lesson. Kira walked into the arena through a tunnel at ground level. The noise of the crowd washed over her like a wave. She could see Keth warriors with their red scales, Vorn with their 4 arms, Tessari with their crystal-like skin. All of them watching her. All of them waiting. Her first match was against a Tessari cadet named something she could not pronounce. He was fast and clever, with footwork that made him hard to pin down. But Kira used only one sword, saving her real skills for later. She won by points, nothing special, nothing memorable. Her second match was against a Vorn with 4 arms and 4 blades. He thought his extra weapons gave him an advantage. Kira showed him that 4 weapons meant 4 times as many openings to exploit. She won again, still using only one sword. Then came the third round. Torvik entered the arena like a king returning to his throne. He was nearly 8 feet tall, his crimson scales polished until they shone. 4 yellow eyes scanned the crowd, accepting their cheers as his due. In his hand, he carried a traditional Kethwar blade, curved and cruel, designed for killing. He looked at Kira the way a wolf looks at a rabbit. "Human," he said. His translator made his hissing voice sound flat and cold. "You have done well to reach this point, but your luck ends here." Kira did not answer. She reached behind her back and drew both of her swords. The crowd went quiet. Torvik's neck frill spread wide in surprise. Then he laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the arena. "2 blades? You think 2 small blades will save you from me?" "I do not think anything," Kira said. "I know." She settled into her stance. Left foot forward, right foot back. Both swords raised, one high and one low. Her weight was balanced perfectly, ready to move in any direction. From the observation platform, Commander Zorath leaned forward. His 4 eyes were fixed on Kira, watching every small movement she made. The referee, a old Tessari with crystals growing from his shoulders, raised his hand. "Fighters ready?" Torvik raised his blade. "Ready." Kira nodded. "Ready." The referee dropped his hand. "Begin." Torvik attacked immediately. That was the Keth way. Hit hard and fast before your enemy can think. His blade came down in a diagonal slash that would have cut Kira in half if it had connected, but it did not connect. Kira's right sword caught the strike. The impact ran up her arm like lightning, but she held firm. Her left sword was already moving, thrusting toward Torvik's exposed side. He twisted away, fast, faster than any human could move. But the thrust had surprised him. She could see it in the way his frill snapped flat against his neck. Good, she thought. Stay surprised. She flowed into her next attack. Right sword high, left sword low. Both moving at the same time, forcing Torvik to choose which one to block. He chose the high blade. His war sword swept up to knock it aside. Her low blade touched his leg. "Point," the referee called. First point to the human. The arena was silent. Thousands of aliens stared in disbelief. No one had ever scored on Torvik this quickly. No one had ever scored on him at all in the first exchange. Torvik looked down at his leg where Kira's blade had touched him. When he looked back up, his 4 eyes were burning with anger. "A lucky strike," he said. "It will not happen again." He attacked again, faster this time. His blade was a blur of motion, striking from angles that should have been impossible to defend. But Kira had 2 weapons. When his blade went high, her left sword was there to meet it. When he struck low, her right sword was waiting. She parried and blocked and deflected, always moving, never standing still. And between his attacks, she struck back. Her right blade touched his arm. Her left blade touched his chest. Second point. Third point. Match to the human. The silence lasted for 3 heartbeats. Then it broke into chaos. Aliens were shouting, arguing, demanding to know what had happened. Some said it was a trick. Some said the referee had made a mistake. Some simply stared at Kira like she had grown a second head. Torvik stood in the center of the arena, his blade hanging loose at his side. He was breathing hard. His scales had gone pale around the edges. "I do not understand," he said. "How did you do that?" Kira lowered her swords. "I can show you if you want to learn." For a long moment, Torvik just looked at her. Then, slowly, he bowed. It was the traditional Keth gesture of respect between warriors. "I would like that very much," he said. From the observation platform, Commander Zorath sat back in his seat. His neck furrow was twitching in a way that his fellow instructors had never seen before. He was smiling. 1 year had passed since Kira Santos first set foot on Varus Prime. She stood in the main training hall, the same hall where Commander Zorath had once told her that dual-wielding was impossible. But today, everything was different. 50 cadets stood before her in neat rows. They came from a dozen different species. There were Keth with their red scales and 4 eyes. There were Vaughn with their 4 arms and quiet strength. There were Tizari with their crystal skin that caught the light. And there were humans, 12 of them, standing tall among their alien classmates. This was the 3rd session of her course. The first 2 sessions had been small. Just a handful of curious cadets who wanted to see what the famous human instructor could teach them. But word had spread. And then something happened that changed everything. 3 months ago, a human marine squad had been stationed on Corinth Station, a small outpost near the edge of controlled space. Pirates from the Syndicate had attacked the station, hoping for easy targets. They had sent 40 fighters to take the station. They expected a quick victory. They were wrong. The human Marines had held the boarding corridors for 40 minutes. They used dual blades when their guns ran out of power. They used fighting techniques that the pirates had never seen. They moved in ways that should not have been possible for such a small force. When rescue ships finally arrived, they found 17 dead pirates and 0 dead Marines. The footage from the station's cameras spread across the galactic networks. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know how the humans had done it. The answer was simple. The Marines had been trained by students of Kira Santos. Now her classes were full. The Academy Council had given her a larger room. Commander Zorath, who had retired from teaching but still observed classes, sat in the back row and watched with his 4 ancient eyes. "Welcome back," Kira said to her students. "Today, we are going to talk about the most important thing I can teach you." She walked slowly along the line of cadets, just as Zorath had done on her first day. It is not a technique. It is not a weapon. It is not a stance or a form or a trick. She stopped in the middle of the room. It is an idea. A young Keth cadet raised his hand. His scales were still soft with youth, and his name was Corvith. He had signed up for the class because his older cousin had told him about the human who defeated Torvik. "What idea, Instructor?" Kira smiled. "The idea that there is no one correct way to fight. There is only what works for you, in this moment, against this enemy." She drew her twin swords. They were the same weapons she had brought from Earth, now worn and scratched from years of use. She had been offered newer blades, fancier blades, but she always refused. These swords had taught her everything she knew. For 12,000 years, this academy has taught that there is one best way to fight. One perfect technique. One path to victory. She began to move through her forms, the blades cutting through the air in smooth arcs. That teaching has produced excellent warriors. Disciplined, skilled, effective. She stopped suddenly, both blades pointing at the floor. If they all fight the same way, when you know how your enemy will move before they move, you have already won. She sheathed her swords and looked at her students. "I am not here to teach you to fight like a human. That would be just as limiting. I am here to teach you to fight like yourselves." The lesson continued for 2 hours. Kira showed them exercises to improve their coordination. She taught them how to watch multiple threats at once. She explained how to find their own balance between offense and defense, between caution and aggression. Not all of her students would learn to dual wield. Some of them did not have the body for it. Some of them preferred other techniques. That was fine. The point was not to make everyone fight the same way. The point was to make everyone think for themselves. After the class ended, the students slowly left the training hall. Kira was putting away equipment when she noticed Commander Zorath walking toward her. He moved slowly now. His scales faded with age, but his 4 eyes were still sharp. "Another good lesson," he said. "Thank you, Commander. Although you do not need to call me Instructor anymore. We have known each other too long for that." Zorath made a sound that might have been a chuckle. "Old habits. I have been calling people by their rank for 2 centuries. It is hard to stop." They walked together toward the window that looked out over the academy grounds. Below them, cadets were training in the open courtyards. Some of them were practicing the traditional forms. Others were trying new techniques, mixing and matching styles in ways that would have been unthinkable a few years ago. "I never asked you something," Zorath said. "What is that?" "That day in my office, when I told you that you would embarrass your species. What would you have done if you had lost?" Kira thought about the question. "I would have gotten up. I would have figured out what went wrong. And I would have tried again, even if you kept losing. Even then, failure is not the end. Giving up is the end." She smiled. "That is the human way. We do not know what is impossible until we have tried it 100 times. And sometimes we are too stubborn to stop even then." Zorath's frill twitched in that familiar expression of amusement. "A dangerous philosophy, maybe, but it got us here." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Below them, a group of mixed-species cadets was practicing coordinated attacks, moving together in ways that combined techniques from a dozen different traditions. "I was wrong about you," Zorath finally said. "Wrong about humans. Wrong about what is possible. Everyone is wrong sometimes. Yes, but not everyone is willing to admit it." He turned to face her. "You have changed this academy, Kira Santos. You have changed how the galaxy thinks about fighting. And you did it not by being stronger or faster, but by being different. Different is not always better. No, but it is always valuable." Zorath began to walk away, then stopped and looked back over his shoulder. There will be more challenges ahead. More people who say that something is impossible. More traditions that need to be broken. I know. Good. Then you know what to do. Kira watched him walk away. Then she turned back to the window and looked out at the cadets below. They were the future of galactic warfare. Some of them would become generals. Some would become heroes. Some would not survive their first real battle, but all of them would carry a little piece of what she had taught them. The idea that rules could be broken. The belief that impossible was just a word. The understanding that sometimes the only way to win was to do something no one expected. In the distance, a shuttle was landing on the Purple Mountains. Another group of new cadets coming to learn the art of war. Among them, there would be humans. Young men and women from Earth who had never held a sword before. Kira smiled. She would be there to meet them. She would be there to show them what they could become. And the next time someone told them that something was impossible, they would know exactly how to answer. Watch me. The story of Kira Santa spread across the galaxy. It was told in military academies and training camps on 1,000 worlds. It was studied by generals who wanted to understand how a single human had changed everything. It became a legend, but for Kira, it was never about fame or glory. It was about proving something simple, that there was always another way, always a different path, always a chance to surprise the galaxy. She stayed at the academy for 20 more years. She trained thousands of students. She wrote books about combat theory that became required reading in military schools across known space. When she finally retired, she returned to Earth with her twin swords and a lifetime of memories. The last time anyone saw her, she was teaching a group of children in a park. They were holding wooden swords and laughing as she showed them how to move. When someone asked her why she was teaching kids when she could be advising presidents and generals, she just smiled. "Everyone starts somewhere," she said. "And you never know which of these kids will be the next one to do the impossible." She raised her wooden sword and faced a child who was barely tall enough to reach her waist. "Ready?" she asked. The child nodded, eyes bright with excitement. "Then watch me." And she began to move.